back to my channel. My name is Sophie and I'm a third year computer science and master of management student at the University of British Columbia. And you guys might be wondering who this person is here next to me. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Jack. I am currently a second year student at the University of British Columbia. I just finished the summer doing the Microsoft Explore internship.
So we decided to do something together, and I'm just gonna go through some quick fire questions essentially. And if you guys have any other questions for him, leave them down below and he might be able to leave some answers as well. So how did you get into programming?
So it was actually from a business book that I read. Initially, I wasn't into computers at all. I really wanted to go into a field that's gonna make a lot of money. So
fair.
like business, things like that. But then after reading this business book and then doing some more research, I realized that later on down the line, the key skill was gonna be problem solving and also scalability. So with software, the thing about software is that for each additional unit that you sell in software, the cost of producing more units doesn't go up at all.
Right.
So in traditional brick and mortar businesses, if you were to sell hot dogs, for example, if you sell 100 hot dogs, you make a lot of money. You say you want to scale that, and to sell your 1,000th hot dog, you have to hire more people. You gotta get a truck. You gotta get. So with software, it's completely different. And for me, at least, I want to be that person who has the ability to build something, build a software product, and not have to just be the business guy who's like, I have an idea. Can you build it for me? I want to be I have an idea. I'm gonna build it, and if it works, I'm gonna hire more people to build it.
Yeah, and you are a web developer mainly, so can you talk a little bit about what web dev is?
Yeah, so web dev is, so there's two components to it. There's the front end, and then there's the back end. I'm more of a front end guy, but lately I've been trying to learn more about back end and really become a full stack engineer. So full stack means that you understand the front end and back end. So the front end is literally just the stuff you see on a browser. So that's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, those three things. And what I really liked about it was you get instant results quickly. So as soon as you start programming, as soon as you start learning about it, you can start creating projects and it'll automatically be there. I know for backend though, it's gonna be a lot longer. Even if you spend 5 hours coding, you're not gonna get that instant feedback. It's gonna be a longer process. And it's a lot more math heavy and computer science stuff heavy, but again, long-term wise though, I think it's good to understand how it works.
Yeah.
So web development is really just about programming, on the front end side, programming user interfaces in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and programming stuff that people would interact with through the browser. And for backend, it's programming code that runs on the server. So when a browser makes requests to the server, you would write code that would you would write logic to handle those requests and send back information.
Yeah.
Based on that.
I have a little bit of web front-end experience using React, but not as much as you do. So why web development? What do you enjoy most about it?
So as I talked about in the very beginning about selling software products, the way I see it is that in order to attract users to use your products, you have to make it easy for them. So it's a lot easier for them to go to a URL and check out your website or check out your web app rather than having them to download something. So unless you are a big corporation or you have a lot of reputation or you're building something with someone famous, not a lot of people would go out of their way to install something on their phone and keep it there because it's going to take up storage. It's harder to scale basically. And I find that it's a lot more enjoying. I derive a lot more enjoyment for getting more users to my app.
Right, reducing that friction of the user actually getting the product. Yeah.
That's right.
And what do you not like so much about web dev? What the main day-to-day challenges that you face? Pixel perfect buttons.
Okay, definitely CSS. CSS. That's I would. Every single time, I'm have an idea, I just gotta Google search, how do I center a div inside another div? That's even if you're a professional, I feel like sometimes you forget these things. You only know so much. So you have to, what I don't like about it is sometimes when you don't know something, and you're searching on the internet and trying to find if someone else has the same problem, and you're just sort of stuck in that phase where you're just constantly Googling back and forth, and there's no solution to that. Like
it's like the 90% looking things up, 10% actually coding things.
Yeah, exactly.
Relatable. And okay, here's a big question: Vue, React, or Angular?
So I've never used Vue before, but I have used Angular and React, and I would say React.
Okay,
for
nice.
Yeah.
I like that. That's the only one I've used, so.
It's the best, in my opinion. It's the best.
Okay, that's good. And another big one: JavaScript or TypeScript?
Okay, so this actually depends on the type of project that you want to build. So TypeScript was introduced for building larger scale applications. The thing with JavaScript is that you would only use it to build hobby projects or smaller scale type of projects. And the reason being is that it's much harder to debug JavaScript than it is TypeScript. So for example, in JavaScript, in object-oriented programming, if we were trying to access a property of a class, but that property doesn't exist, what happens on TypeScript is that it'll give you an error, and it's easy for the developer to just go back and fix up the error. But in JavaScript, it wouldn't give you anything.
Right.
It would just say undefined. The property is undefined, so your code would still work. But as you scale and you build bigger and bigger apps, and say something crashes, like what's really, really hard about it is that the code compiles, but it crashes during runtime. And that's extremely frustrating to debug. But like for me personally, for the type of projects that I work on, I use JavaScript because it's not like totally, huge project, millions of users. It's like
not yet.
Okay, not yet. But once the project scales, then I would say you want to migrate to TypeScript.
How do you, if let's say you have an idea for a web project you want to do, how do you approach that idea?
Well, first I think about the different strategies. So the way I see it is there's two different web stacks. There's one for the actual product, and there's one for the actual distribution.
Okay.
So if I have a new idea for a web project, first I think about is the engineering possible? Like how good is it going to be? And the second thing I think about is how am I going to distribute it? And usually what happens is, the engineering is cool, but I find that there's no distribution strategy for me. Like how am I going to get people to use it?
Right.
So I just stop and I don't do it. So for me, I feel like it's a lot more important to have a distribution strategy down. And then once you have that motivation to really get the engineering done. And so you sort of kind of work backwards in a way. Like you would think about the finished product, how I would distribute it. And then I think about okay, what's the engineering required, and maybe I need to get someone to do it for me. In that case, then I can just do some research and figure out what I need.
Okay. And I myself am mainly a mobile developer. Go check out my video if you want to see that. And you're mainly a web developer. So would you recommend people, if they want to get into programming, would you recommend them to start with web development? And why not?
So I would recommend actually starting with web development because I've done mobile before.
I agree.
I've done mobile before. At that time, I was complete noob. I was like a complete beginner, so I started with mobile. And they introduced a lot of different concepts in object-oriented programming and when you work with mobile development, you would probably, if you're developing for iOS, you would use Xcode and things like that.
Yeah.
And then for that, they introduced the model view controller design pattern and everything. And I think that
that's not actually used anymore. That's outdated now.
Oh, what do they use?
It all changed with Swift UI. It's all new.
Yeah, so Swift UI, all this stuff is proprietary to Apple, for example. And if you want to develop cross-platform, then you have to learn a bunch of new things. But the thing with web dev and JavaScript is that I feel like the internet and web is here to stay.
Hopefully.
It's very, very cross-platform, and I feel like it's a lot easier as well with JavaScript. And because JavaScript is so widely used, I feel like there's a lot more resources for it, like Free Code Camp. There's also Code Academy, a lot of beginner courses teaching JavaScript just for that reason. But I think after you learn more about development and you become a more competent engineer, then definitely feel free to dive into the mobile space.
Yeah.
But I'd say start with web dev.
I fully agree. If you want to start with web dev. And do you have any advice for beginners out there on how to start and where to start, any resources?
So my biggest advice would be to look at programming as a tool, not the end thing that you want to go for. So, for example, a common question is, what programming language should I learn?
Right.
And it's kind of imagine if LeBron asked, so what brand of basketball should I buy in order to become, a professional basketball player? It's like,
it's a good metaphor.
Yeah. So it's like, use whatever you need to get the job done. And so when you start, first pick a problem that you want to solve and think about how you might solve it using tech. And then once you get that initial motivation to do it, then everything becomes a lot easier, because programming is kind of boring sometimes. But if you have that vision of a product that you want to build, then it sort of brings meaning to all those Google searches and all those hours debugging and everything. And if you just follow through with that, not only do you learn more about programming, become a better engineer, but also you have a legitimate product that people could, they could use. And even if it doesn't succeed though, just having that on your resume, have the project there, and it really, I'd say it really helps with motivation, and it helps with a lot of other things.
Okay, cool. One of your latest videos on your channel is about you being an intern at Microsoft in the Explore internship, I believe. So I'll leave a link to that down below, and also in the eye up there, so go check that out. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How is the Microsoft life? What do you do, and do you like it or do you hate it?
So I gotta be careful here because I can't talk too much about it. I can only talk about probably the work-life balance and everything. So I'd say Microsoft is one of the really great companies for work-life balance. They really do care a lot about their interns. They have a lot of events, fun events that you can go to, and it's generally just a great experience. I'd say when you're, even if you're a first-year university student, do apply to these first-year internships and second-year internships, such as Explore and STEP for Google, for example. And even if you do get rejected from all those companies, just going through the application process, going through the grind will make your resume better, because I presume you're probably going to be brushing up your resume and also writing cover letters. And it'll motivate you to do more projects. Yeah,
so that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, hit the notification bell, and thank you so much, Jav, for joining me today, and check out his channel. Have a great day and stay safe.